Hey everybody, welcome to episode 23 of Satellite 664. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Kaz Tagan, actually one of your three co-hosts, Kaz Tagan. And as always, I'm joined by Mr. Steve Loopy Newhouse and Matthew Ward. How are you,
Good
gentlemen?
afternoon, good evening, whatever it is. It's morning here still.
Yeah, it's
Just
It's definitely evening here.
almost 10 p.m. here.
yeah, I've still got the full day in front of me.
Yes, and we will be retiring to slumber after this. So, look, it's
Can I just add, like, before we go on, we were hoping that Rasmus would be joining us on this, but he's off saving the world somewhere.
yeah. Raz,
Dressed up in his superhero suit and his big cape. And...
Disarming some bombs.
Rasmus will be with us next time. I've
Yes,
flagged that
yes.
with him and got a thumbs up in response. So we'll have him next time, and we'll flag the next show. We'll talk about the next show a bit later because that's a really interesting one. But it's a lot of people thought we'd gone away forever. A lot of people thought we'd Satellite 664 was no more, but alas, here we are. It just took a little over 4 months for us to do this one because. I don't know, you add in Christmas, New Year's period. Loopy, you became a grandfather for the third or fourth time, is it?
Fifth and
time.
sixth time. Fifth and sixth.
Yeah.
I've now got six. So
Six.
yeah.
Congratulations, my friend.
Thank you very much.
I wish your family good health and longevity. And yeah, we've all been busy with family and work and God knows what else. So. I just had a revelation that it was November 22nd was our last show, so I thought we better do something. And we've had this episode hanging over our heads for a while because we sort of covered the 1988 period with Keith Wilfort last time, and we just thought we'd put the finishing touches on it tonight by doing the general merchandising, which because I mean, look, we're an Iron Maiden. Sort of show. We talk about the band, but also we're crazy collectors, so we like to talk about the merchandise and all the stuff that was around as well. So we'll just finish off 88 and march on after that. So before we go, Loopy, do you have anything to tell the world since November 22nd at all?
I'm getting my eye sorted out. And I can't wait. Basically, I don't know if people know, but my right eye has got a cataract.
Yeah.
And I'm now just like waiting on the date. I really can't wait because it's so. What's the word? Frustrating. It's so frustrating that something could be going on just off to my right, and I can't see it. So it's actually sort of staring at half a screen. I mean, that is so much better.
No.
But what do you do?
Yeah.
So I've got nothing to add, really. I'm just going to sit here and enjoy the show.
All right. Look, well, let's go back. Let's go back to that wonderful year, 33 years ago. We really went into the guts of it with Keith in November. So a lot of the stuff. So this episode is really reinforcing a lot of that stuff and, putting some merch to it. So, Matt, do you want to kick us off, buddy? What do you want to present first?
Totally. Well, look, 1988's obviously the end of an era. I guess the end of the classic lineup of Maiden. It was the last tour of the 80s that Maiden would do. The decade was coming to an end. And in terms of shirts and merch, it was the end of the line for a couple of, let's say, iconic Maiden shirt styles, I guess. Number one being in America, especially the baseball jersey. The classic kind of white body, three-quarter sleeves, either black or different colours, which is like an iconic piece of rock fashion throughout the 70s and 80s. And Maiden really utilised that merch well. Every tour from 81 onwards in the States, they had multiple jerseys on the merch booth. But anyway, flash forward to 1988, it was all about to come to an end. They would make their last ever jersey, one for America, and they had one in Europe as well, and that would be it. They would never again feature on Maiden merch tables again. I think they did a random jersey came up in 1998, 10 years later, on the European tour. And that would be it again until I think the early days, and I guess due to the retro sort of nature of that tour with all the early material they were playing, they did a couple of baseball jerseys in as well. So it was really changing fashion times as well, especially in America.
So, Matt, this is, just to be clear, this is what we're showing here. This is the jersey with basically Eddie sitting behind the desk with the crystal ball, the two candles, the prophecy.
Prophecy design from the inner sleeve.
That's right. Album, yeah. And the back is basically, it just says Tour 1988.
Well, the back sort of became, it's a bit bizarre. It's a bit bizarre, isn't it? Because that tour picture on the back print of that shirt was sort of the main artwork in Europe promoting the tour. It was just like that sort of Monsters of Rock, sort of smoky, ghostly Eddie up in the sky with the ice statues on them, and just a big logo in the middle. And the inner sleeve picture became the main tour art for shirts. Instead of, and this sort of breaks a sort of tradition that Maiden had since, I guess, the 82 tour, even the 81 tour, whereas they would follow that set lineup of artworks. You know, they had the album picture, the two singles, and the tour art. And that main tour art would be on the main shirts, the posters, the tour program, but not on the 88 tour. It was sort of all over the place artwork-wise, you know.
Yeah, well, we've spoken about this before, you and I, and I've got my theory on this, and that is that basically from, I suppose, 1980 to 87, they could do a lot more with the Eddie character, you know, because he was full-bodied. He was either a cyborg, an Egyptian king, or, you know, in a padded cell, what have you. They could just do a lot more with him, and therefore we had a lot of designs as well. Whereas 1988, we see Derek Riggs's art direction shift towards a very minimalistic nature. So you've got this half-bodied floating torso. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do with that. You know, we've spoken about this on previous shows. You know, they were able to incorporate Eddie into the local culture. So we've seen on some of the old US tour shirts. I mean, you know, Eddie's surfing in Hawaii, or he's destroying Disneyland, or he's you know, a hockey player. You know, when you're a
hard to
partial,
but you're right, yeah, hard to do.
Yeah,
hard to do when you've got a half body, you know, to deal with. So,
when you're a
and that's I guess that's reflected in the event shirts, which we can, you know, we'll look at in a minute or two. But back to the baseball jersey, I mean, I have to say personally that American baseball jersey is probably one of my favorite shirts of the tour. I think that image, the prophecy, especially with the green on the white background, with the Grim Reaper, you know, floating out behind Eddie's, just like, it's a magnificent shirt. Yeah, that's my 2 cents worth.
I totally agree with you. Actually, ironically, even though we're heading into an era where the artwork is very minimalistic and kind of reductionist, ironically, it also produced two of the best pieces of artwork, in my opinion anyway, two of the best pieces of artwork in Maiden's history. That is obviously the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son album cover, but also the prophecy itself. Or the prophecy Eddie with a crystal ball. It's just, I actually think it's one of my favourite pieces of artwork in the band's history. So, not surprisingly, why it featured on so many of the tour shirts. So, all right. So let's keep
the Europeans. So just while we end on the baseball jerseys, the Europeans did get the album cover version. So the album cover Eddie on a baseball jersey for the European tour.
That's right, and we're showing that
And
now.
And that's another what a brilliant piece of artwork that is on the shirt too. A great way to go out, if you like, for the baseball jerseys.
Yeah, so I mean, here we're looking at the European one. It's got all the countries in the Book of Life. So the Book of Life's open, and you've got the countries, and yeah, so the European jersey, or I suppose, differed because it had the actual album cover. But going back to the previous jersey, the Prophecy baseball jersey was never sold in Europe, was it?
No,
So
no, just for the Americans, that one.
Canada as well, or just United States?
Canada as well, as far as I know.
Yeah. And is there a difference between, now this is really going deep, geeky collector's talk, but is there a difference between the shirt with the copyright and the one without the copyright?
There's no other difference. There's no difference in the artwork. It's on the same label the shirts were produced on. I have no idea why. Some shirts had no copyright, whether it was just a printing error. But it's not just that tour. There's a couple of the main tour designs over the years. 82, I think the Peace Tour jersey, there's a version without the copyright as well. It doesn't make them unofficial. It just, for whatever reason, they just wasn't printed on the shirt.
And as collectors, we have
I'm not sure anyone would be able to give us a definitive answer as to why.
But as obsessive compulsive collectors, we had to have both versions, right? Otherwise, life isn't complete. All right.
The other shirt style that was going to come to an end in '88 was the muscle shirt, the sleeveless T-shirt, which was probably more of an rock fashion, particularly heavy metal, heavy rock sort of fashion of the '80s. And once again, Maiden dominated sleeveless T-shirts in America in the '80s. But again, in 1988, the last one would be this insane fire engine red muscle shirt with, well, the artwork from the tour program on the front, with Eddie standing on, now with legs. So Eddie with legs standing on the floating, reaching out to a floating guitar that's sort of submerged in front of him.
Yeah.
So now, was that, given that was on the European or all the world tour programs, was that originally meant to be the main tour art, do you think?
Oh, that's a good hypothesis. I mean, it's a good theory there. Yeah. It's because now that was for those who don't know, in '88 they had two versions of the tour book. One was the blue cover, which had this full-bodied Eddie on an iceberg or on an ice sculpture, and that was the first tour book basically for the because I mean the tour kicked off in Canada and United States, and that was the first tour book. By the time they hit the UK tour later in the year, we had the black tour book with the Union Jack, which
that's right.
We'll
just
show
sort of set for the UK tour only.
Yeah, so look, it's anybody's guess.
I'm just wondering if that was meant to be, like as we touched on before, whether that would have been the main tour art. It was meant to be on, the tour program, the shirts, the posters, but it ended up being a very underutilized piece of art. I think there was one. Kaz, was there a UK tour poster with that art on it, and that was it, apart from the program? There's a giant Subway poster of it somewhere.
The
European show.
I actually have the Wembley and Hammersmith posters, and poster. Because both dates are on the one, and that is an image we'll show shortly. That's actually Eddie holding the baby with the Union Jack.
That's the Union Jack poster, isn't it?
Yeah, so
I'm sure there's a huge tour poster with that. It would be the very last official Iron Maiden muscle shirt ever.
Wow.
They've never come back and done another one since.
Wow.
I've got just looking at the back of the red shirt, and I just noticed that on the where it shows the countries, and you get all the European countries at the top, and then it goes Canada, USA, Poland. It's almost like Poland was put in as an afterthought It's like,
Yeah.
oh, we forgot to add Poland. It's
Yeah,
just weird.
but they didn't play Poland in the end. They
Makes it even funnier.
no, they didn't.
Maybe they ran out of space when they were planning the countries out. They needed to fill up a little space. I thought, well, Poland will fit in there nicely.
Well, I mean, look, I'm looking at it now. I mean, they didn't play South America, and that's listed. They didn't play Poland. They didn't play Japan. Now, that's always surprised me. Their number one market, they didn't play Japan. Ireland, they didn't play Ireland. But yeah, they played every other. So yeah, there's a few countries there that they actually didn't play on, which I always found unusual because there is official merchandise even on previous tours with countries that just weren't played, and yet it's on the official merch. So I think, I mean, early on in the tour, maybe they had every intention of playing those countries, and then maybe plans didn't work out. But then again, as Keith told us last time,
a bit like the current tour, you mean?
let's not go there, right?
Okay.
Actually, we will go there, but after the topic du jour is exhausted.
Yeah. One thing at a time.
No, but you see, Keith also told us last time that when they started the '88 tour, the tour was, all the dates were planned. They had no intention of adding or subtracting anything else, which makes it even more mystifying as to why you've got all these other countries on there that weren't played. Because, I mean, he made it very clear to us they had no plans playing Japan. They had no plans playing any other markets other than US, Canada, the Monsters of Rock festivals in Europe, and then the UK, the Thank You Tour in the UK. So who knows why these countries were added. I guess a sore point for Matt and myself is the very first tour book also has Australia listed. But they were never going to come here. They were never going to come here.
I did. And one of the great, the tragic memories of my childhood was hearing Nico interviewed on a local Melbourne heavy metal radio show, and he 100% said they were planning on coming to Australia at the end of the year. But, you look back on that now with what you just spoken about after speaking to Keith, Kaz, and is that just shrewd marketing?
It's shrewd marketing. It's shrewd.
Fans of those countries going to go out and buy the album and support you, thinking that you're going to come. Maybe we wouldn't have bought the album in such numbers if we knew that they were coming. Is that how it works?
Yeah. No, it's shrewd marketing, and that's what it is. I mean, I remember in 1985, Blackie Lawless of Wasp came here and did a promo tour, and he announced that Wasp would tour Australia in '86. It didn't happen. They came in 2008. So, I remember through the '80s, Kiss saying.
Yeah.
I remember Kiss saying, "Well, we're gonna come to Australia on the Hot in the Shade tour of '89." They had no intention of coming here. So yes, I think these guys were invited on the metal radio shows to spruik the album, promote the single, and of course you're going to say what you want. You're going to tell the listeners what you want them to hear, right? So.
Exactly what they want to hear. That's right.
Actually, I skipped school it was October '85 when Blackie Lawless was here. I actually skipped school to go and see him. But little did I realise that he was appearing during the day, so during the night time. So I actually skipped school, got caught, got into a lot of trouble, and didn't get to meet Blackie Lawless on that day either. So a little tragic anecdote from my
Kids,
teenagers.
you just don't learn, do you?
But I did get a sweatshirt with his signature on it. This is an original '80s signature. So anyway, well, look, we spoke about the poster on the UK tour or the artwork with the Union Jack. Matt, do you want to just talk to us through that white shirt?
Oh, so moving to the end of the year when they did the UK Thank You tour. So that was just a shirt specific to that tour. Eddie holding the demonic baby and pointing at you, Uncle Samwise. Eddie Wants You. I think it was the poster say Eddie Wants You for the tour or something. But anyway, the T-shirt just had the picture. Great on a white shirt. And I think there was a standard black version just sold in stores and mail order without the venues and the dates on the back.
Yeah, the black version had that brick wall that said Eddie was here, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Loopy, how many of those gigs in '88 were you at? Were you Wembley Hammersmith, or did you get to go to all of them?
Hammersmith, I probably did all of them. '88.
Hammersmith, I think they did 2 or 3 nights in '88, and Wembley was definitely 2 nights.
One at Wembley as well.
Yeah, Wembley they did 2 nights.
They did, and then they did Donington, which I didn't do. But I did do the warm-up a couple of nights before, the Charlotte and the Harlots.
At Queen Mary College, wasn't it?
Yeah, Queen Mary College, yeah.
Actually, Matt,
we should show that shirt too.
Yeah, let's talk about that one now. Go for it.
So the two, well, there was actually 3 warm-up gigs, wasn't there? Or 3 lots of performances.
Yeah, Charlotte and the Harlots.
David Monica, Charlotte and the Harlots.
Yeah, there was
only one I did was one at
Didn't they do a couple of shows? Was it in Switzerland or Germany before the festival tour?
Yeah, it was Germany.
There was never a show.
It was in Cologne.
They did do a couple of shows.
It was in Cologne, Germany.
They did the warm up for Donington or whatever at Queen's Mary College, which is So that was just like they can't unplug. Had a shirt without a logo, but with the date on the back, and they did a similar one for the warm up in the US. It was Brooklyn. It was at L'Amour's, isn't it? Brooklyn.
That's right. So Germany was at Cologne in end of April, '88, and New York, I believe they did the same.
And then I guess that was the start. Shirt-wise, that was the start of another tradition, I guess, with the warm-up gig shirts. And the band would do it for the next 3 or 4 tours, wouldn't they? A warm-up gig under a made-up name, and release a limited shirt for each of those.
Charlotte and the Harlots, the Nodding Donkeys. These great names. Great names. So now, Matt,
the entire population of China, wasn't it, or the entire population of Hackney?
Hackney.
That's right.
Yeah. Who was that?
That was after the World Slavery Tour. Adrian got together with Nico.
Was Nico on that too? Did Nico play drums?
Well, he did.
Was it members of Beckett as well or something?
Yes, that's right. And basically, they were testing equipment for the Somewhere in Time album. So they did a show. Was it the Marquee or someplace in London? And they called it the entire population of Hackney. Adrian brought his old mates, Andy Barnett, Dave Colwell, who ended up being on the ASAP Silver and Gold album, and I think the rest of Maiden joined them on the Marquee tour, and they did some covers. They did some, I think they did some Silver and Gold stuff, and they did some Maiden stuff. There's a recording of that from December '85. Entire population of Hackney. So they've got a good. Wonder were you there? You weren't there, were you?
No.
Well, you've been to every gig, haven't you, Luke? I thought you'd been to everything.
Yeah, I've been everywhere, man. You'd be amazed at some of the things I did under that banner of sort of stage miracles. I mean, we weren't just about sort of doing rock and roll. We did trade shows. We did AGMs. We did so many different things. It was just mad. But going back to like the band side of it, if it was down to the promoters more than anything. If you got a band like the entire population of Hackney going into the Marquee, then the Marquee was so small that it never required a local crew. No. It was always done by their own people. So we never got to hear about it.
Does that venue still exist?
I don't know. Because I know it moved from Wardour Street to Charing Cross, but
Charing Cross. Charing Cross is in southwest London, isn't it?
no, it's Charing Cross is it's right next to Tottenham Court Road.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Very good.
But yeah, it's so yeah.
Very good. Now, Matt, I've wanted to ask you. I mean, I know we were initially trying to do this in chronological order, but I think it's sort of gone out the window a little bit. Can you talk to us about the jumper with the rose or purple strip on the sleeve?
I think it's another classic 80s style jumper, sweatshirt, whatever you want to call it. Was actually available. I think they took it out with them it was on sale at the European shows, and then via the fan club mail order. But basically just a plain black sweatshirt with a purple strip down one arm with some of those little logos that were on the Seventh Son in a sleeve, down the sleeve in gold.
Hieroglyphs.
Yeah. Not exactly the most heavy metal looking piece of clothing you'll ever see, and I've actually seen a similar one for I think Judas Priest in the same year for Ram It Down. They did one with like a blue either stripe across here or on the other arm as well, also made by Bravado. So just a bit of a late 80s attempt at who knows what fashion.
Like something Bravado's instead of fucking brain fart. You know what I mean? It's just like, I know.
That's right. They can't do 100% all the time. Some of them were a bit hit or miss, you know. So, but it did have this. It looked like a crew sort of sweatshirt. It had this 070788 on the breast print, which is not that code for Seventh Son of a Seventh Son 1988. You know, and people, it looked like it was like 7th of July 88, but it actually wasn't. You know.
Now the rose-coloured version with a rose strip, is that the rarer one? Because I've never seen that one pop up on any of the groups or on even on eBay. It's always the purple one for some reason that turns up.
I believe that is correct. And we probably should have asked Keith that if he could remember if that was anything but just like maybe a second print run, and Bravado didn't have any purple left, and it was made with a rose pink one, which is probably even less metal than the purple. So maybe it's a good thing there wasn't that many of them.
Yeah, but I need the rose one for the collection. So I don't have the rose one. So
you should have asked Keith.
Well, I can contact him and ask him. All right, Donington. Tell us about Donington.
It rains a lot.
Apparently it's muddy, and I've not heard anybody say that they went to Donington and it was blue skies and a nice day.
It's actually known over here as Drown Load.
Drown Load.
It's a summer festival, right, Luke?
Hey?
It's a summer festival, isn't it?
I saw a photo from...
It's always... I always do it in June. And June in this country is always unsettled. So why not do it at the end of May? May is much better.
Yeah.
Or move it to August,
I saw a photo. Someone posted up a photo back in 2016 when they saw Maiden there, and they were in gumboots. You know,
the mud was ridiculous.
These ponchos, these rain ponchos, and it just looked like it didn't look like a rock show at all.
There's a walkway. Well, not when the band are playing, but when the bands are not playing, there's actually a walkway from one side of the stage to the other, probably about 40, 50 feet in front of the sound desk. And pictures I saw, that walkway was at least 6 to 7 inches deep in mud. And people trying to walk through it, the wellies are getting stuck, and it's just unbelievable.
You were at Donington.
What I found surprising from a shirt point of view is that there was never a Donington event shirt, considering how massive Maiden were, and that being like the pinnacle of the 80s UK sort of touring that they didn't make a Donington event shirt other than just the standard Bravado shirt print,
I was going to say, wouldn't the Bravado jumper, the sweater, the black sweater, and the t-shirt with the black sleeves, wouldn't they have been the event shirts for Donington?
Well, not really. I'm talking like something that had like a specific artwork on the front for Donington only, like a Maiden.
Oh, I see.
Like the Bravado Festival shirts and jerseys just had the Donington on the back, but it had all the band lineups on the front.
Right, okay. Yeah, so you're saying they used the generic Monsters of Rock artwork and they just slapped the Donington date on it.
And that's probably got more to do with what we spoke about when we were doing the slavery tour, is that I guess either Great Southern Merch in America or Capitol Records or whoever was designing and drawing all those American event shirts, that was all just North American based. And so no one in Bravado was going to, and obviously Derek Riggs wasn't on hand to do up just a specific picture just for Donington, which is a shame. Yeah. Whereas these days, obviously, it's completely different with her. There's event shirts for every part of the world and beyond,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And just a bit of interesting trivia. For the German, that jumper or that shirt, Monsters of Rock shirt in Germany, the KISS logo does not have the lightning bolt SS. It's more the Z type S. That's because for obvious reasons, since every time KISS has played Germany throughout their career, they've always had to have a different logo. Because that.
Well, it's not so much a different logo. All they do is just change the two S's.
Oh,
like the S's normally look like the Gestapo S's.
Yes.
And they just go back to, as you said, the Zs.
We can show the comparison. Did I send you those pics, Kaz? We can show them up anyway.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. We got them. And
obviously for collecting reasons, that just makes twice as many designs to collect, because obviously they did the whole range: t-shirt, jersey, sweatshirt, white t-shirt in Germany alone, just with the different S's, and then they were back to normal for the rest of the European tour. So you've got to get twice as many pieces of clothing to complete the collection.
As we've said many times, collecting doesn't matter what band you collect. I think if you've got a collecting soul, you're a bit OCD, and
well, I mean, you say that. Yes, I totally get it. I totally understand. I mean, when I was on tour, collecting T-shirts, that was a big thing. And when we worked with Stage Miracles, it got to the point where every crew, if we were working for one of the bigger bands at one of the bigger venues, we expected shirts. If we got them, great. If we didn't, well, fuck you. But we always got shirts. But on the KISS tour, considering we were out with them from August to November, whatever it was, we didn't get anything. We weren't offered a shirt or nothing.
So I'm pretty sure on that tour, Maiden weren't allowed to sell their own shirts, were they, inside the venues? I think it was only KISS shirts allowed. Is that right? I've heard that a few times.
Yeah, it does seem to ring a bell.
Yeah.
But the thing is the level of sort of detail in some of these shirts is what makes them collectible. And we were saying before, it's identical shirt, one has a copyright, one doesn't, but you got to have them both. It's
that's right.
It's
like there's because we'll probably get back onto the American event shirts now. There is the California shirt. There's one version that has 1988 on the back print, and the other version doesn't. So you've got to get both of those too.
Yes, and this is why collecting is a bit of a disease, because it just never ends. And when you acquire one item, there's a variation, you got to acquire another. The people who will understand this are the vinyl collectors. They will understand this very, very well, because for vinyl collectors, if there's even the smallest difference in matrix numbers or covers or misprints, they've got to have it. And You know, I mean, you can have Peace of Mind, 30 different versions. It's still the same music, but one's got this label and one's got that barcode and one's got that matrix number. So I think vinyl collectors understand this, and we'll do an episode on vinyl collecting eventually. But most other fans think we're nuts, we're crazy. But when you start collecting, you just gotta have all these versions, and it just never ends, ever. So when is it going to stop, Matt?
It'll never end, because things still keep popping up from online that you've never even seen or heard of before. So the wants list just keeps on getting longer,
Yeah, so you and I met up for pizza a couple of months ago, and we both looked at each other and we both said, you know what? I think I've reached the end of the road. Enough is enough. No more collecting. That's it. We drunk to it. We actually, clicked the glass. And I think that lasted all of 12 minutes because...
Or somebody checked something on eBay and it's like, oh man, I have to fight.
Oh, got it. Oh, what? This World Slavery shirt? US shirt? Oh, gee, I don't actually have that. And then it just all started after that. So I got to have this promo photo with it and whatnot. It just never ends. So, well, look, Matt, you've introduced the US shirts. Do you want to... They're quite interesting, actually. Do you want to talk about a couple of those, mate?
So the US shirt, yeah. So we briefly touched on, obviously, the artwork available to these guys in the States creating these event shirts, and obviously dealing with a half body Eddie, as Kaz pointed out. You can't have Eddie dressed up in all these different guises anymore. So I guess you're limited to what you can put it to. And I think now these event shirts for 1988, the artwork specific to the events is relegated to the back print on these shirts. And the front print, they just went with the generic, with the crunch design, which is just a big Eddie's head. And instead of crunching down on the Maiden logo in between his teeth, you've got the state or the country of the event. So they all had the same front print, which if you go 12 months before, with a previous tour, you had multiple designs. Each event shirt had front and back prints specific to the event. And yet 12 months later, it's sort of all simplified down a bit. It's almost like there's not as much care or detail put into those artworks. And I wonder if that reflects, what Keith was mentioning about Maiden's reception in the States in '88 and how well or not as well the album was received. It's almost like the care factor's sort of dropped off a bit on putting the time into creating these event shirts. So yeah, the artwork's relegated to the backs, and I wonder whether originally they were meant to be on the front and they were deemed, I don't know, it didn't work, or maybe they weren't good enough, because they're kind of a bit up and down. I think the New York shirt is a good take on the Can I Play with Madness head, but instead of Eddie's head, you've got obviously the Statue of Liberty with the big coming through her snatching her brains out in a circle. Now I think that would look wicked with the Maiden logo above it, and maybe it was meant that way originally, but who knows why. But yeah, I mean, some of the back prints, I guess, just back to the front cover Eddie, and what do you do with the half body Eddie? Sort of, I think the California one sort of nails it the best. You've got just sort of Eddie with his arms open, grabbing, I think, the Queen Mary ship in one arm, or the Capitol Records building in the other, which works pretty well. And compared to something like Texas, I think Texas was just like a desert landscape with a spinning whirlwind, which kind of, the whirlwinds morphed into Eddie's head from Can I Play with Madness. It was a bit lacking, I guess. So who knows?
I absolutely hate those crunch designs. Honestly, I hate them.
They weren't Derek's work, were they?
Well, I think the crunch picture was, but the back pictures, the event images weren't his artworks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, hated it back then. I still hate the crunch, and I'm proud to say I don't own a single bit of merch with that crunch design anywhere in my collection. So,
obviously, though, in terms of shirt collecting, those event shirts, they're all on white T-shirts. So like I said, there was no jersey event shirts this year. They were all just plain white T-shirts, but they're obviously the most sought after designs from this entire tour. And it did throw up probably one of the most rare designs was from the Los Angeles show, and it was the same crunch picture, but it had Iron Curtain in Eddie's mouth. I don't know why, Iron Curtain, but it was a radio station giveaway shirt. I think it was KNAC radio station in LA, and they had a stand at the front of was it Irvine Meadows or the Forum or wherever it was in LA?
Irvine Meadows.
They had a stand, Irvine Meadows. So they had a stand at the front, and I've heard from a couple of fans who were there that if you walked up to that stand, you could swap the shirt off your back for one of these limited event shirts. And they had an official copyright, so they're obviously Maiden's blessing behind the shirt. So that's probably one of the rarest shirts from the tour.
And yeah, one of the rarest, one of the ugliest, one of the rarest. But what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I hate these crunch designs. I just think they're repulsive.
I was just sitting there looking at all three of us now. Who would actually give up the shirt they're wearing now for one of those?
That's right. So imagine you turn up to this 1988 concert wearing your 82 or 83 tour shirt. Would you swap that for one of these? Probably not. Which is probably why they're so rare.
I'm wearing nice, wearing nice Satellite 664 merch.
Oh, you're fine.
Yeah, not giving that away.
No. See, now, if you're a hardcore fan and you went both nights, you could have seen this on the first night. Thought, okay, yeah, cool. I'll just come and wear a plain Levi's shirt. Next night, whatever. Say, here you go.
Shitty old vest.
Well,
right.
let's. And ironically, these white crunch shirts now are worth a fortune, an absolute fortune, aren't they?
They are, yeah.
It's insane.
Look, I've seen the California shirts in good condition go for $1,500 US each.
$1,500 US.
Off the chart. Yeah.
Yeah, it is just astronomical. Some of these prices on some of these shirts are absolutely astronomical. And these white US event shirts from 1988 really command quite hefty price tags. Matt, is that? I mean, we've had this conversation before. I thought that with the pandemic and with, I guess, some of these economic sort of crises going on, that the price of merchandise would actually be coming down, but it's actually gone the other way. The market at the moment for Maiden shirts is unlike anything I've ever seen. It is through the roof. What's your theory? I think in part it's sort of greed on a part of another sellers, and it may not necessarily reflect the market. But what do you think?
Well, did we talk about this on the last episode? I'm not sure. I mean, there's different. There's a lot of fans in Southeast Asia who are addicted to buying Maiden shirts, as well as us old fans around the rest of the world. And there is definitely a fashion trend in that part of the world to be seen wearing vintage shirts, vintage metal shirts. And unfortunately for the rest of us collectors, vintage Maiden shirts seem to be the most popular and command the most money. I mean, look, there's always going to be collectors in the world with money. I mean, it's not a mainstream item. Just because we're in that scene, we can see it all the time.
Well, do you think? I mean, is the Southeast Asian market boosting up more the white shirts? Because I know you've said to me before that they have a particular interest in white apparel.
They do. For whatever reason, white shirts and jerseys are the things that command the biggest dollars in that part of the world. Whereas, an original shirt from 1980, Loopy might just go for £100 on eBay. Maximum. I think I saw the last Metal for Mothers tour, just with the red Maiden logo and Metal for Mothers British Tour 1980, which is, probably one of the first Maiden tour shirts ever, goes for £100.
But
Whereas
Matt,
you get like a white crunch shirt, not even the tour version, just the standard version sold in stores in America, in their thousands, selling for $500-600 US.
but Matt, I'm even
As a
seeing.
collector, that does my head in.
Yeah, but Matt, I'm even seeing the standard black, just the standard black sort of tour shirts from slavery era, somewhere in time era now just get listed for some insane prices. Whereas even 4 or 5 years ago, we were picking them up for a couple of $100 at the most.
That's right.
So
The problem is they're not selling though, and this is the fallout from
yeah.
that market and the big buys that everybody ends up knowing and hearing about. So everyone who now finds a vintage shirt, especially a vintage Maiden shirt, thinks they're onto a pot of gold, and it just gets listed for these ridiculous buy it now prices. And some of them are just worn out and full of holes, and they're listed for $400, $500 US. I mean, no one's going to buy them, and they sit there for years, not being bought.
Yeah. So, but do you think it's a case of monkey see, monkey do? So seller A comes along, lists the most worn out, tattered shirt for 1,000 US, and then seller two comes along, lists the same shirt, and says, "Oh, if he's put it up for 1,000 US, well, I'll put it up for the same or
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's
I
like
reckon
I
it
said,
has that flow-on effect for sure.
yeah,
Because these people aren't hanging around to see if the sold prices. They're just seeing them, what the average listing price is. And if everyone starts putting them up that price, everyone's new sellers are going to go, oh, wow, this is obviously what the going rates are. I'll start high as well.
Yeah, so it's an artificial market. It inflates. It creates an artificial market which is significantly overinflated because when you deal with within the shirt collecting community or the merchandise collecting community, prices tend to be very different and a lot more equitable and a lot more fair because I guess the real hardcore collectors know that this is a standard shirt that's worth 100 US and no one in their right mind is going to buy it for 1,000 US. So I think there's two different markets at the moment going on. There's the markets for the experienced collectors, and then there's the general market where, as I said, somebody acquires an estate sale or just rummages through some boxes and they find a shirt from 35 years ago and they think, like you said, it's a pot of gold when it's probably not anything resembling.
I mean, I'm not a collector by any means. Right? It doesn't interest me, if I'm perfectly honest. So, you collect T-shirts from a set period.
Yeah.
Is there like a little sort of set group of you that sort of like contact each other, or do you go for like the wider market? I mean, say something appears on eBay from a new seller. Do you deal with that, or do you just sort of stick to your little group?
No, I mean, like as a collector, and Casual will be the same. We're kind of eBay addicts, Even though, I own so much already, but there's always the chance that someone in the world's going to find one of the shirts that I don't have in their cupboard and list it up on eBay. So I have to keep an eye out for that. So yeah, I do deal with eBay sellers from time to time as well.
We have to. I mean, sure, eBay.
But that's kind of something. At this point in our collecting careers, that's almost like the only way. Like we almost know all the other collectors around the world, and we know that these people don't have some of the things that we need. It's like no one we know has them. So it's that random person who finds that shirt from 1980 or 81 at the back of their closet or in their parents' place and lists it without knowing anything about it now.
Yeah,
that's what we're all hanging out to find.
Yeah, look, round about 2000, from 2015 to 2018, some of the collecting, the Facebook pages for Iron Maiden collecting was fantastic. I mean, sometimes on a daily basis you were getting high-end items turning up, and there was a real buzz around the collecting community at that point. I think it's really died in a big way. and a lot of us have sort of moved onto eBay or really talking amongst each other amongst these quite small niche circles of collectors. And occasionally there's some other sites as well, in Japan and Europe. But yeah, a lot of the stuff which is sort of very accessible does tend to go on eBay. And that's just the nature of collecting. But it'll be interesting to see in the next 5-10 years. I mean, we can talk about this over and over and over every episode, and we'll get different perspectives. But it'd be interesting to see in the next 5-10 years what happens to the scene, the collecting scene after the band finally retires.
I should imagine everything will become a collectible.
But will it? Because I mean,
you're never going to get it again. So
yeah, but other than our generation of guys who are now approaching 50, are there any sort of mad collectors out there that are going to pick up the baton and run with it and keep the hobby going, as it were? I mean, there are certain bands that'll always be collectible, but will Maiden?
It's a good question. It's hard to answer because it's a bit like saying, what if Maiden finished in 1993 when Bruce left? Maiden, what if they said, well, we're not going to continue as a band? Would you and I still be collecting the stuff from the early days?
Yeah, who knows? I just don't see.
I'd say probably yes for me, for sure.
Well, look. There
are people in the future doing that as well. I mean, Pink Floyd collectors. There's some insane Pink Floyd. I know Pink Floyd shirts are worth a fortune as well. Those guys aren't ever touring again.
Yeah, look, that's true, and there's no right or wrong answer at the moment, simply because we don't know. And everybody's got a different opinion. But I don't see the next wave, even though Maiden do have a multi-generational fan base, they got some very young fans. I don't see that next wave coming through of guys ready to sort of really take up collecting to the degree that, say, some of us crazy nut jobs do it. So. And I think it's a bit of a constant thing amongst fan bases of a lot of bands. So time will tell. It will remain to be seen. I guess the market for vintage shirts is quite big in North America, particularly in the US. I mean, a Hollywood celebrity walks out with a vintage rock shirt, and instantly the price of that shirt goes up. So there is definitely a fashion element in North America about vintage shirts, which I don't know if that translates to the rest of the world, but it'll be interesting to see in years to come as to what actually happens. But again, we can talk about this time after time after time, and we still won't have an answer because we won't know until another 10, 12 years or longer. So, and that's pretty much.
You just reminded me of going back to your favourite design of the tour, the Crunch US event shirts. Just in passing, we should show the Chicago. Actually, probably my favourite ones of this series is the Chicago shirt with that back print. I think Eddie's just in a hot tub with a witch and some devils and stuff. And the slogan above is the original Party Mutant. And again, going on back to the end of the era, this would be the last time that the Chicago Mutants would get a mention on a shirt, which they had done them, I think, since '83. And in fact, it would be the last time Chicago got their own event shirt until probably Brave New World, I think, in 2000.
I must say the back prints on these shirts are really nice. They're really colourful and quite interesting. But yeah, I just hate these crunch. Anyway, I won't. No more. No more negativity.
So they should have been on the front, right? That's what we reckon.
They should have been on the front. They should have been on the front. Put the crunch on the back and whatnot. So Yeah, and that concludes the Seventh Son era. I think we're done with it. There wasn't a whole lot of merch really to come out from this era. I mean, sure, Rasmus could sort of show us a few things, but there wasn't the same spectrum of merchandise sort of from this era really, apart from a few generic posters and promo posters and that infamous torch. But there really wasn't a whole lot, Matt, was there?
That's right. Someone owns the, I think there was a Capitol Records glass paperweight. Was it a green, huge ball paperweight, either with the Prophecy Eddie inside it or something? Or we do have a photo of that. It's just probably one of the better rarities of promotional material to find.
Yeah. It's not like that mock-up tombstone at Metal for Melbourne, was it? That Live After Death one. Anyway, so what do you gentlemen foresee for 2021?
Blimey, we're almost 4 months into it already.
What do you reckon, Loopy? Do you see cataclysmic floods, biblical famines? What do you foresee? You tell us.
That every day. I was never very good at. Well, who can tell the future? I mean, it's just forget it. It'd be nice to finally get this damn virus gone, just out of the way. It'd be nice to meet up with fellow Maiden fans.
Yeah.
Maiden friends, family. What do you do? And also, like being an aviation geek, it'd be nice to look out the window and see aircraft instead of just blue sky. It's crazy.
I mean, look, we're very lucky here in Australia. We've effectively gone back to normal, or sort of normal. I mean, I'm going to the football now, and there's 50,000 people in the stadium, and
there's bands booked for later in the year now over here, isn't there?
Yeah.
Kiss of
Guns
N' Roses are back.
Guns N' Roses touring, Kiss are touring. We've already had music festivals here. We've had concerts already. We are pretty much kind of back to normal there, but the only thing that's abnormal is we just can't leave the country. There's no international travel at all, so we're not, and there's always that reminder that, well, you're not really normal, but we are living our own insular normal life.
Here in the UK, basically they're looking at June the 21st to have everything sort of back to where it was. It's like people say to me, it'd be lovely to go back to normal. It will never be normal. It will be some kind of normality, but it will never be the way it was. Because people have now sort of learned that extra hygiene, they've got to wash their hands every now and again. They've also learned that because of certain circumstances, they're still going to have to wear a mask. It's common sense. But if I have to wear a mask every day for the rest of my life, then so be it. Doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I never thought I'd look back and say 2018 was the good old days, or 2019 were the good old days. But
so 2 years ago, but Jesus.
No, I do. Look. I mean, a couple of years ago, or back then, I used to look back to the 80s and say, "Wow, what amazing days! They were the best days of my life." And now I'm looking back at 2018 and saying, "Wow, what wonderful days!" So it's that irony, isn't it? You don't know what you got until.
That's right. It makes the memory of the tour even better,
Yeah. We all got to hang out on that tour, which was great.
It's funny you say that. I mean, the other day, clearing up some of the files on my computer because the computer's dying. I think, can you hear the noise in the background?
Yeah.
That's a fan I've got blowing on the back of my PC because the CPU keeps overheating.
Well,
So I've now got fans that are blowing on it to keep the temperature down. And it still rides at 72 degrees. It's going to die. So, so I was going through some files, and I found like the files from Brooklyn.
Oh.
And photos from Brooklyn, and just going through, like, sort of looking at the where we were all in that bar, the Irish bar, Hannigan's or whatever it was called. Yeah, I mean, some of the pictures from there, and like, it's just the memories are great.
It was an awesome night. That was such a fun night. The gig and then back at that pub afterwards were awesome.
Yeah, well, let's hope we're doing that again in the not too distant future, because
fingers crossed.
That's what life's about. Life is not about being locked up in your house and wearing a face diaper. It's about interacting with each other, and about enjoying our favorite band and enjoying each other's companionship. So fingers crossed we'll get there.
Won't be long now.
Announcement about the next show. We've posted about this. We're going to do a Q&A where you, the viewers, send us the questions and we'll answer them. We've already had a couple of questions.
Basically, anybody out there watching this, apart from the fact that I want you to subscribe and like this post, if you have a question, you either send it to the website, which is satellite664.com. That you go into the contact, that question will then come through to my email. So I will pick it up there, or I'll go to our Facebook page.
We've had some
Satellite 664. There are questions on there. All you got to do is find the thread and just add your question at the bottom. No,
we've already had a couple of really good questions come through directed for Matt and Rasmus about collecting. And Matt, I'll send you those questions. But yeah, the four of us will hopefully be on together, all four of us next time. It's going to be a Q&A. It's going to be great fun, and as we know, these discussions lead in all sorts of directions. So
also, just let the fans know that, or to watch it, our viewers, just let them know that we will probably be transferring from Skype to Zoom to get better picture and sound quality.
Yeah,
we're trying our hardest. Sometimes it's out of our hands, so we'll give that a go.
Yeah, probably not for a couple of more episodes, but yeah, we will eventually look at a Zoom type setup, because a couple of other podcasts that I follow have switched to Zoom, and it looks really good. So with us though, we're older guys.
What we can do is
not as tech savvy. We're not as tech savvy, so it'll take a while.
You can have quite a lot of people on there. So rather than sort of we do this for the viewers, we just invite the viewers on and chat with ourselves.
We could have a reunion of that pub in New York City. Just have everyone there.
Yeah.
Oh, mate. Yeah.
All right. Until next time.
People, don't forget to subscribe and like, please.
Yep. Good to see you.
See if I can get our figures up.
Good to see you, gentlemen. And we'll see you for the next one.
Be back.
Yep. We'll see you for the Q&A episode. So.